Welcome back, everybody, to Pull Hook Golf, the podcast. This is episode number 95. Whoo! I can't believe it's been 95 episodes thus far. And man, we are in the holiday spirit today because we've got a packed show that really, there's just a ton to go over today. We're going to be recapping the Hero World Challenge. We're going to be talking about Tiger's return, Golf Down Under with our Aussies, the upcoming Grant Thornton Invitational. We've got the upcoming PNC Championship in 2 weeks that we're going to dive into. We've got the golf ball rollback. We've got big time LIV Golf news that could be heard all around the world. So, man, we better get right into it. But before we go ahead and dive into today's episode, I just want to thank our sponsor, Swannies Golf. And here you go, folks. Ever thought of adding a hood to the back of your favorite quarter zip? Why not throw in some sweat-wicking fabric made from recycled plastics right to your closet? Floral print lined collars for a work-friendly polo that also says, "I like to have fun." Holiday-themed hoodies and hats. Don't you worry, Swannies definitely thought of all of that. Their game-changing styles are built to perform, and that fits in just as well at the office as it does at a happy hour. Bold prints that keep a bear cart or a beer cart coming back for another look, and seasonal swag that'll have you looking the festivist at your Festivus. Swannies is a sure bet for a good look, feel good, play good solution. Word to the wise, if you don't like compliments, we might not be your thing. Swannies Golf. Use promo code PullHookGolf25 at checkout and make sure to get yourself 25% off all of your Sick Swannies gear. My goodness, I am festive today in my Swannies gear. I've got the quarter zip hoodie that they were talking about. I've got the beanie, the Swannies beanie. Man, this thing is nice. I've got the Brock polo underneath, which I like to call the Aaron Rodgers polo or my Bufo Experience Ayahuasca, whatever you want to call it. But I got that in the blue with the orange. Man, I'm feeling good today. And a little Bushwood Spirits here as well. All right, let's get into it because, once again, we've got a packed show tonight. So first off, the recap of the Hero World Challenge. And let me just say this. I have been the one to sit there and go, Scotty Scheffler, choke artist, can't handle pressure. Well, guess what, folks? Scotty Scheffler just proved why he's the number one player in the world by shooting 20 under out there at Albany in the Bahamas. Yes, you can go low. There's lots of birdies to be had, but he wins by 3. And here's the thing. When I talk about him being a choke artist or him struggling under pressure, especially with the flat stick, because we have not seen Scotty Scheffler struggle when it comes to his ball striking, especially under pressure. Haven't seen it. He continues to play phenomenal golf at a very high level, but the putter usually lets him down. Well, guess what? He did make an equipment change before the Hero World Challenge, in which they were talking about a little bit in the broadcast and so forth. But this gentleman, Logan Olson, he hand makes putters and he customizes each of them. And he spent some time with Scotty Scheffler during the off weeks when there wasn't anything going on, and they built this putter specifically for him to all of his likings, and it resembles a Ping Answer too. So the Ping Answer, that is one of the most iconic putters that's out there, so I get it. And the interesting thing is the little bit of departure away from Scotty Cameron and his Scotty Cameron putter. So that's an interesting thing that we're going to have to keep an eye on, because it wasn't like he just went lights out with the flat stick either. Okay. So he ended up being 5th in strokes gained putting. So 5th out of 20, which, yeah, that's not bad at all. But also you got to look at the proximity to where he was hitting the golf ball as well, which, again, Scotty Scheffler, when he is on, He is a ball striking genius, so you got to give it up to good old Scotty Scheffler on that one. And then, as we look at the leaderboard as a whole, I mean, it was a great tournament. I hope you tuned in, got to watch the Hero World Challenge out there in the Bahamas. I mean, the guys were having a blast. It's not a super pressure packed golf tournament, which once again that goes to the point where Scotty Scheffler, in a non-situation where he needs the flat stick to really show up, he's comfortable, he's relaxed, he's feeling good, he's got that new putter that was specifically made for him. So yeah, things are going to go well. I still want to see Scotty Scheffler under extreme pressure, maybe in a major championship this year, to where that flat stick shows up and he's able to close the door on somebody coming down to 18, makes a clutch putt. I would love to see that from Scotty Scheffler, 100%. But also, the next part that I want to get into is a little leaderboard rundown here, which Sepp Straka, very strong, finishes second, 3 shots back of Scotty Scheffler. Then you've got you got JT, and it was great to see Justin Thomas start to play some better golf again. Justin Thomas has been struggling. It was his worst year on tour this past year, and I hope that we get to see Justin Thomas back in form, because Justin Thomas, he's an absolute gem of a golfer. He's a cool dude. I've talked about it on this podcast that I met him years back when he first came out on tour, and just a great dude. And I don't think that really has changed all that much. Like, he isn't somebody that really let fame get to his head or anything along those lines, or success, I should say. So definitely JT, good to see him back up at the top of the leaderboard, shot 16 under. So he finishes third. Then we got our T4s, okay? Tony Finau. He was the one that I said he was my pick for the week. Love Tony Finau. Love the way that he's playing right now. And once again, another top 10 and actually a top 5 there. So if you had that bet and you put down Tony Finau in the top 5, boom, you made some money this week. And then you got Matthew Fitzpatrick at minus 15 as well. And boy, oh boy, there was a little bit of drama with Fitzmagic out there. And your boy Colin Morikawa. So Matthew Fitzpatrick, he is a little Law and Order. I mean, there were definitely some memes out there to where they were like, look at this guy. Does he not look like a narc? He's got adult braces on. And it's funny because you look at him, you're like, yeah, he kind of does look a little bit like a narc. Nothing against Matthew Fitzpatrick. Never met him in person. Don't really know what he's like outside of the golf course and what we see on TV. So can't really tell you anything there. But Colin Morikawa, this is interesting because apparently this has been going on for a little while, and players have started to notice and started to talk about it a bit, because nobody was upset with Matthew Fitzpatrick for ratting on Colin Morikawa or narking on him. And Colin Morikawa, what he ended up doing, folks, so just so that you have a clear picture as to how he cheated, basically you can use devices on the practice putting green to get the speed of the greens. They're called the stimp. And on the stimp meter, you have a certain number, 10, 11, 12, 13, and that's how fast the greens are rolling that week or that day. Okay, so he had a device out there, and he was getting those stimp readings. However, you cannot transfer that information into your course book or your course notes, okay? And he's been doing that apparently. So that's cheating. And that's where apparently saw him on the putting green before the round and saw him writing in the notes after they were using the device, called him out on it. And sure enough, Colin Morikawa gets a 2-stroke penalty. I'm surprised we didn't hear more about this. However, the broadcast was right on top of it, which I do have to touch on a little bit here in a second with some of those replacements, because we did get to see Paul McGinley. We did get to hear from Kurt Byram as well. And I think Paul did a good job for his first go around. I think he was very solid. I think he's got some work to be done there, but it was his first go with it. So kudos to him and shout out to him for doing a great job down there in the Bahamas. But going back to the controversy, the broadcast picked it up as Fitzy and Scotty Scheffler were on. I think it was on the back nine, hole 10 or something along those lines. And sure enough, they started talking about the incident. And you could tell by Scotty Scheffler's reaction, it was, oh, finally somebody has said something or somebody has done something about this. So it sounds like it's been going on for a while, week in and week out, with Colin Morikawa and with the stimp reading device and writing it down into his course notes that he takes onto the actual golf course. And Scotty was like, hey, I do the same thing, but I try to remember just a couple of those readings. He's like, it's not like I'm sitting there writing it down in the book. And he's like, yeah, that's where it goes from just general knowledge to that's in your course book. That is now cheating. So again, broadcast, good job of picking that up and getting that into and picking up the hot mics on the two of them. That was pretty good as well. The one that was a disappointment for me was Victor Hovland, which I can't blame him. Victor Hovland, you absolutely deserve to not go out there and to play at the top of your game because, folks, he was an absolute damn machine the past couple of weeks. And sure enough, I mean, and you know what's hilarious? So Run PMC, one of our listeners here, so he just popped in on our chat. That is live, by the way. So if you want to throw in some comments, whether you're on YouTube or millions.co, feel free to go ahead and throw in some comments. And I will talk about them live on the broadcast as well, even though we do have a jam-packed schedule. But you see it here that Bobby talked about it months ago, too. The big-time caddies had improper stuff in their yardage books last season. Absolutely. Everybody's looking for that little bit of edge, which, as they've kind of... I guess you could say they have really started to enforce the law. There we go. They've started to enforce the law with a lot of these little things. We saw it at the Masters with Brooks's caddy and Gary Woodland's caddy talking about what iron he just hit, and clearly that got played out. I mean, the yardage books and the greens books were the biggest change to where you don't have all the data and information in your books anymore that is allowed. So certainly it goes to show you that it is changing. They are tightening or enforcing the rules a bit more, so to speak. And yeah, guys are always looking for an edge. But going back to Victor Hovland, he was trying to go for the three-peat. He won the Hero World Challenge the last 2 years, and I was really hoping that he was going to get that rare feat. But again, you can't blame a guy who, at the end of the season, turned into a machine, and you could just tell that he was so focused and so locked in. And the only person that we have seen like that is Tiger Woods for a long period of time. Victor Hovland, he seems like a guy that likes to enjoy himself a bit outside of playing golf, just a fun, happy-go-lucky type of guy. So Victor Hovland, he goes out there, and it's not like he finished 10th. At 9 under. It's not like he went out there and shot 81. I mean, Will Zalatoris, welcome back, by the way, Will Zalatoris. Opening round of, I believe it was an 81, but he came back the second day very strong, very strong. And that leads us right into our next segment, which is the return of Tiger Woods. I've got one word for his performance: impressive. It was very, very impressive what he was able to do out there this week at the Hero World Challenge. I mean, no doubt, Tiger Woods with a fused foot, ankle, leg. It was quite impressive, and you could tell. I mean, there were times to where, well, I will say this. There's another word that I would use to describe the week for Tiger, which is sore. He was very sore. But the great thing for fans everywhere is that he wasn't injured. When we have seen him post-accident with the leg and everything, he's injured. Like, he's got to go in and sit in cold baths or ice baths for a long stretch of time, which granted you don't go beyond 15 minutes. I learned that kind of the hard way. But that being said, he was in there after every single round during the Masters. He couldn't even finish the Masters. He had to withdraw because he was in so much pain because he was injured. Okay. Now he's just sore, which is a great thing. And you could see the happiness in his face and just the way that he felt about the week. You can tell there are certainly some rusty areas in his game, but is also some mental fatigue in his game as well for not being out there competitively. He made some stupid mistakes. He'd be the first one to tell you. So, and he did. I mean, he was in with the media talking about it after rounds and so forth. And just, there were some mental mistakes that he made while he was out there. And that's all part of just getting reps. And he talked about that as well. He needs to get reps. He needs to be out there a little bit more, which he talked about what his plan is for tournaments. He's going to play a tournament. He's going to have a rest week. Then he's going to go in and he's going to have a tournament prep week. And then hopefully that's going to lead him right into the actual tournament itself, which if he starts getting into that pattern and into that rhythm where basically everything is building up to a tournament, then rest, build up to a tournament, rest, build up to a tournament. He can get into a rhythm that way. And it's one of the areas that I see with golfers, especially the LIV golfers last year. And we'll talk about the LIV golfers a little bit later on. But the LIV golfers last year, when they all got paid their money and then they came back for that second season after a long break, they were not very good. I mean, there was a ton of rust, but some of the veteran guys, you could tell they hadn't taken off that much time in their entire career, let alone, over a short stretch of time, not picking up a golf club. But they got paid all this money. And I talked about this throughout when LIV Golf first got announced and first came to fruition and guys started going over there. I talked about it tooth and nail to where I'm like, you look at Major League Baseball, you look at the NBA, these guys are getting paid millions upon millions of dollars. And they're not really, some of them are incentivized and so forth, but they don't have to. But pride, and not only pride, but the competitiveness of being a professional athlete, the minds of professional athletes just work differently. It's an extreme competitiveness. And I think we're seeing that this year. And again, I don't want to get too far off topic and get so far down into LIV Golf. But in talking about that, should we be excited for Tiger Woods as fans? And I would say yes. But keep your expectations to a minimum until he figures out this routine and that becomes the norm for him. For building up to a tournament, playing in it, building up to a tournament, playing in it, then we can start to see something because he clearly still has the game. He clearly is still Tiger Woods. Granted, he is up there in age, his body's sore, mentally maybe not as strong as he once was, but he still has it, and we could still see a potential run at a golf tournament here and there, maybe even a major championship. The Masters is always a great one because the Masters, he knows how to play that golf course, and course knowledge at the Masters is absolutely massive. But I tell you, press the brakes just a little bit because let's just appreciate him being on the golf course in a professional golf tournament. It is fucking awesome to see him out there doing this with all the injuries that he had and to be playing and enjoying it. Not just being in pain and doing it for all of us, but being out there and having fun and enjoying himself. Let's enjoy it with him. These are the twilight years. We don't know how many more we're going to get with Tiger Woods. So let's all just enjoy it. And then on kind of a opposite side of the spectrum, and the LIV Golf fans are probably going to love this one, or at least I should say the LIV lovers, but someone did point out to me, and going back and looking, it's interesting. They pointed out that, and this is somebody in the know, that they said he looked a little bit on the thick side in terms of muscle, not fat, in terms of muscle. Like, it was a little bit much for him to be able to pack on. Now, Tiger's always been ripped. He's always been in the gym. Everybody knows he goes in, works out at 4 a.m. Brandel Chambly was talking about how players have told him that Tiger will text them at 4 a.m. in the morning going, I'm in the gym. What are you doing to get better? So there's certainly that aspect to it. But this goes beyond a little bit of the natural side, or at least I should say that from my source, they were saying that it's a little bit too beyond what you can do naturally, especially at his age, and even the head a little bit. And it was interesting because Bobby and I, we've talked about this in the past, where the PGA Tour right now, since LIV Golf came into effect and became a competitor and started stealing some big players away, PGA Tour is not drug tested. Okay. So that right there, and I'm not somebody who is against, I mean, the best era ever in Major League Baseball, period, was the steroid era. So I am not saying that this is a bad thing by any means. I'm just pointing it out there for all of you to be able to look at it and go, do you care? Do you not? It's up to you. So just be aware of that one. But one of the things that I do love about that is that, we might be able to see Tiger even that much more. The more we see Tiger, the better, as long as he's not in severe pain. And like I said, as long as he's not injured, that's the Tiger Woods that I want to see. All right. Whew, that's a lot of talking. Going to take a little sip here of this Bushwood. Gosh, around the holidays, that Bushwood Spirits really just get you going, And then, if you're still looking for gifts for golfers, for buddies, for your if your wife plays or your girlfriend plays golf, Swannies.co. Pullhook Golf 25 is the promo code. Once again, Pullhook Golf 25. Get 25% off your entire order. All right? It's not just one item. It is your entire order at Swannies. You get 25% off. So thank you, Swannies, for doing that for all of our listeners. All right. Now, moving on, because, again, we got a lot of stuff still to cover. We got some golf going on down under. I don't know if people are aware, if my golf fanatics out there are watching the Golf Channel late at night, or if you're on the West Coast, popping on at the 8 o'clock hour, and all of a sudden there's golf in Australia. You're like, all right, is this a repeat? Nope, it is not a repeat, folks. That is live golf going on down in Australia. And actually, as a little while ago, there's also a tournament going on right now. So I'll talk about that in a second. But shout out to our guy Mook down there in Australia. Mook has been a fan from day one. He has been out there with the boys in Australia. They set up listening parties on Friday. They have some food, some drinks, have a good time listening into the podcast. So, Mook, this is a quick little shout out to you, buddy, because you sent over a couple of videos that you took out there at the 2023 ISPS Handa Australian Open. It is a men's and women's golf tournament. They go on at the same time. Now, results are obviously separated, men's and then women. But there's another event going on right now, which the results from that tournament, the women are mixed in with the men, which is how I'd like to see it. I mean, that's pretty cool to see that setup. And it's going to be a theme for the rest of the show for the most part of what we talk about is just how this is a really cool time of year for men and women professional golfers to come together and to start playing in some events. Okay. So once again, going back to the Handa Australian Open, and the videos that he sent, by the way, were of Cam Smith and Minwoo Lee. Awesome videos. Thank you, Moog, for sending those out to us. And then good old Joaquin Neiman. So another LIV golfer here goes out and wins in a playoff over Rakuya Hoshino. Which great tournament. Minwoo Lee, everybody thought that Minwoo Lee was going to go back-to-back wins. He won 2 weeks ago coming into this tournament. He was looking good. He was the leader in the clubhouse after day one. I mean, his game just looks sharp, and I'm with you guys in Australia. I know our Aussie fans are absolutely hyped on Minwoo Lee, and for good reason, because this kid's a stud, man. He is an absolute stud. There we go. We got Cam McMaster jumping in. Great pod. Love your stuff. Thanks, Cam. Appreciate you. Now, as we continue to move into Minwoo Lee, he's also got a sister that is absolutely phenomenal, which her name is Minji Lee. Okay, so we got Minwoo Lee and Minji Lee. The Aussies absolutely love these two. Now, with Minji and Minwoo, by the way, finished third. He kind of petered out throughout the week. And I talked about it last week that what was really impressive with him and his victory 2 weeks ago was that he didn't have his best stuff every single day. A lot of players need to have their best stuff. And even when the scores vary a bit, like you can see, their ball striking is just on. He was not incredibly on, and he wasn't incredibly on this time either. Still finishes third. We've got some notables out there with Adam Scott. I mean, talk about Australian favorites. I mean, this was a guy that I used to see all the time at the Butch Harmon Academy, and just an absolute stud and a super nice guy too. Like, you walk past him, he's saying hello, no matter like if he doesn't even know who you are, he's saying hi, no matter if he's had a bad day or whatever. So Adam Scott, he finishes T4. You got another Fitzpatrick out there, Alex Fitzpatrick with a T8, and then Adrian Moronk with a T8 as well. They're at the Australian Open. And then let's see here. So Cam McMaster, do you think Min will catch fire in 2024? I do. I think he's got a PGA Tour victory 100%. I don't know when it's coming. I don't know what tournament it's coming at. I'm going to have to do a deeper analysis, but after watching his game, when the Aussies really started to tip me off to the fact that this kid was up and coming, then Bobby and I started talking about him. Bobby talked about the fact that he's a little too arrogant out there right now. He's still got to learn the ropes. He's still got to figure out, how to handle himself rather than just kind of being this showman, which I love the showman. So I'm totally okay with the cockiness, with, the fist pumping, with a little bit of arrogance out there. I love it. I think it's good for the fans. Fans tend to love it. So, I mean, Minwoo, I think he's got a great shot at winning a PGA Tour event this year. And then if he's playing in a bunch of DP stuff, I definitely think he's got a DP. Well, he already does. I mean, he's got the tournament 2 weeks ago. So what the fuck am I talking about? Now, as we look at the women's side, Ashley Buhai, I believe that's how you say her name. My Aussie guys, you can harass me for saying it incorrectly if I did, but she goes back to back. She held off Minwoo Lee's sister, Minji Lee, and they came right down to the 18th hole, and she only had a 1-shot lead. She had a 3-shot lead heading into the final round, but Minji Lee, if she didn't get off to a rough start on her opening round, Minji would have won it. It would be really cool if next year we see Minwoo Lee win and Minji Lee win at the exact same tournament, playing the exact same course at the exact same time. That would be dope. Now, as we look at the other Aussie tournament that's going on right now, which is a mixed event, this one's cool because the men and women are playing against each other. Like, they're on the same leaderboards. This is called the Cathedral Invitational out there in Australia. You got guys like Adam Scott, Cam Smith, Mark Leishman that are in there. You got women like Gabby Ruffles. And literally right now, Adam Scott has the lead, unless it's changed. I checked about an hour ago, and they're playing right now. So if you go and check out, don't leave the podcast, obviously, but if you go and check out after the podcast, the Cathedral Invitational, got Adam Scott battling with Cam Smith, Mark Leishman, but Adam Scott was in first, Cam Smith was right on his ass in second, and you had Gabby Ruffles in third. So it's a pretty stacked leaderboard, and you got a woman up there trying to compete with the guys. I absolutely love it. Now, another one coming in from Cam, thinking he will get 3 smaller events next year. I love the cocky excitement too. We're talking about Minwoo Lee. Love that. And then We've got we've got a bit of people, you know. I mean, come on, people, give us some likes, give us some love out there. We've got a bunch of people watching, so here we go. Let's continue on. We've got the upcoming, and once again, folks, tis the season for men and women to come together. Upcoming Grant Thornton Invitational starts on Friday. It's a 54-hole event. I thought people said there were no 54-hole events on the PGA Tour. Well, when you combine it with the LPGA Tour, you get yourself basically a LIV Golf event. But that being said, this is the tournament Bobby and I were talking about last year during the PNC Championship that we were excited for because it is a mixed gender team matchup. So you got one PGA Tour pro, you got one LPGA Tour pro as teams. Okay, so you got some cool teams that are out there, and I love that this event is bringing attention, and a much deserved attention, by the way, to the women's game. The LPGA Tour pros have the best golf swings, okay? I don't care if you're looking at Tiger Woods, looking at Rory McIlroy. The women have the most fundamental, beautiful golf swings in the game, period. They're usually more flexible. Now, sometimes they don't have the strength. They swing a little bit slower, obviously, a lot of times. So you get that, but their technique is so freaking spot on. And again, it's bringing great attention, kind of like Lexi Thompson out at the Shriners this year, playing against the men. But this mixed gender event, I love a couple teams, okay? And this is from a betting standpoint, too. So, granted, I'm going to go with the two favorites, but I don't see anybody taking out Tony Finau and Nelly Korda. How cool of a team is that? We're going to have AJ1s out there, our good old Air Jordan 1 lows. You're going to have the Travis Scotts on good old Tony Finau. You're going to have Nelly Korda rocking them as well. That is Team Jordan right there. I absolutely love it. And the way Tony Finau is playing, there's no stopping this team because Nelly Korda, she's just absolute money when she plays. I mean, when guys were seeing her at the PNC Championship last year playing with her dad, they're just like, holy shit, this girl doesn't miss. That is exactly what we're going to see. But we've also got Sahith Theegala and Rose Zhang. Okay, this is the dark horse, and it's not a dark horse because if you look at the PGA Tour's power rankings, they got them in second. So it's not a stretch here, but Sahith and Rose are the young guns of this entire thing. Now, everybody else, you're going to see different teams out there and everything. I would definitely say tune in to that tournament. I mean, I can go through some of them. Reed and Henley, you got Corpus and Champ, you got McGuire and Glover, you got Auberg out there with Sagstrom, you got Vu and Joel Damon. So you got some pretty interesting teams. You got Lydia Ko with Jason Day. That's going to actually be a really good team as well. The one that's surprising is Boutier and English. So Harris English and Boutier. They're going to be pretty good. Charlie Hull and good old Justin Rose. You've got them as a team as well. So I'm not saying that like there are like this is a no-brainer Tony Finau, Nelly Korda, done deal. It's definitely something to where Tony Finau and Nelly Korda are just playing well right now, and I think they're both going to come together this week and really just, go full jump man out there. And Michael Jordan, AJ1, Travis Scott, you're going to see him out there in terms of the shoes, or the sneakers. And that's what I'm going with this week as a sneakerhead. But I don't love the fact that this golf tournament, I mean, I wonder, as fans out there, how many of you have heard from the media around this golf tournament? There hasn't been a ton around the Grant Thornton Invitational. Otherwise I'm just missing it because everything's been LIV Golf, everything's been golf ball rollback. Like, it really hasn't had any attention around the Grant Thornton Invitational. And that's unfortunate because this is going to be a cool event. 54 holes, starts on Friday. So definitely take a look at your local TV listings and give that a watch. I think it's going to be pretty cool. Yeah, Cam, I'm with you, man. Cam's not hearing anything on it. I'm not hearing anything on it because obviously there's other news that is bigger right now in the game of golf, and that's unfortunate. It really is. But we also need to talk about the upcoming PNC Championship, which again is a mixed gender event. Now, it's not the same structure. You've got normally father, daughter, father, son, daughter, or mother, son. And there's some PNC Championship. I'm just going to say this. All the big names are back. And this has become my favorite golf tournament of the year outside of the major championships and, yeah, some of the other big tournaments that do go on throughout the year. But at the end of the year, like, you can't ask for much more than this when you all of a sudden you got John Daly and Little Daly going up against Tiger and Charlie. You've got good old Justin Thomas and his dad. You got David Duval and his son. You got Vijay Singh and his son who won last year. You got Matt Kuchar and his kid. And then you got Annika and Will McGee. Oh, God. I love me some Will McGee. I want to see that set up once again. He had on all the tan last year. He had the joggers on. He had the Jordans on. I mean, the kid was absolutely fantastic out there, and the kid could golf too. And then they're doing interviews with him. I mean, it's just an incredible event that puts a smile on my face because you get to see the parents with their kids. You get to see legends out there. It's just a fantastic time. And we've got 2 great weeks of golf at the most random time of the year, which is crazy, right? So, I mean, that's what is really, really cool to see. And then, well, before I do get into all the other stuff that is kind of dominating media right now, I know there's some comments in there already. Cam, you're crushing it with the comments. I absolutely love it, so keep those going. But yeah, we had to cover the PNC because next week, folks, on this live broadcast on millions.co and on YouTube, we are going to have Mr. Kevin Streelman on the podcast. I'm going to sit down with him in person, and we're going to find some stuff out. We're going to obviously dive into his story a bit more. It's one of the things that I talk about all the time with other people in the industry. I'm just like, how in the heck do we not know like the backgrounds and stories and everything of these guys? Like, sometimes we do, right? Some of the bigger players, the ones that win a lot and stuff like that. But in talking with Neil Hubman from LAGC, yes, that's the TGL league. That's not going to happen until 2025 now. But when I'm talking with him, like, they were smart. They're going to have an entire media group, and they're going to interview these players. They're going to get their stories out there. They're going to really get to know each individual player that's on the team. I'm shocked that the PGA Tour does none of that, really. I mean, they do to a degree, but they kind of leave it up to the media agencies and the Golf Channel and so forth to do some of them. But, Kevin's got actually a really, really cool story. And coming out of Duke, we'll go over everything next week. But with that said, after a little swig here, let's get into the golf ball rollback, because this affects every single one of us, whether or not you are a pro or you are an amateur golfer, or if you are just a weekend warrior. And this is what I'll say to the weekend warriors: start collecting your Pro V1s right now, because those things are going to be they're going to become obsolete. Okay. And they're going to be the farthest things that you could possibly hit. The USGA and the RNA got together and they made this baby around the fact that the golf ball is being rolled back. Now, originally, all the talk was around the fact that this was only going to affect the top golf pros that are out there, okay? The highest levels, we're going to see bifurcation that takes place. And, it's going to be like Major League Baseball, where everybody who's not at Major League Baseball is using a metal bat. But as soon as you get up into the major leagues, you're using a wooden bat. Not good. Not good at all when it comes to that, okay? And here's the problem. We still live in a capitalistic society, and money is involved. And I did hear that apparently Titleist, which is the number one golf ball manufacturer in the world, so Titleist absolutely pumps out those Pro Vs like they're candy, okay? And they refused to actually go and just make golf balls for the pros. Now, that also is interesting with Rory McIlroy's comments around the fact that, he's not against it, and he doesn't understand why, we can't have bifurcation. I don't know how to say that damn word, okay? It was the first time that I heard it when all of a sudden I'm hearing Tiger talk about it and everything. But with that said, Rory said, it's not like everybody can just go to their local golf store and buy the same equipment that we have. Now, I know for a fact that players, especially high-level players that are winning a lot and are big time when it comes to, for Bridgestone or for TaylorMade or for Titleist, they do get their own balls made. So that was kind of a little bit of a cop-out, I feel like, from that standpoint. I'm not putting that on Titleist. I'm sure everybody was along those same lines, but they refused to only make a golf ball for the pros. And they talked about the fact that it would have destroyed their profits, because then the average golfer cannot play the same golf ball that the pros can. And that marketing, and I get it from a business standpoint, that makes 100% sense. Because now all of a sudden you can't say, play the same ball as Adam Scott, play the same ball as Cam Smith, play the same ball as 80% of the PGA Tour or LIV Golf, okay? So I totally get it from that perspective, but now everybody's got to reel it back. And I was kind of thinking, I heard that they're going to take it back to the early 2000s. And I'm thinking back, I'm like, all right, in the early 2000s into the mid 2000s, I was in college. So the college golf ball, and I'm thinking, like, how far was I hitting it back then? And I started to realize, yeah, you know what, this might hurt a little bit. But that definitely is something that I don't know if the average golfer is really going to feel the effect of. I don't know yet, because haven't tested these new golf balls, haven't seen anything in that sense where we can actually figure out how much it's going to hurt. Now, when they first started talking about this, it was only going to be the longest hitters were going to be affected. So people that hit the ball over 320 yards. I don't know if that's true. Can you actually make a golf ball? I mean, I guess the limited flight golf balls, but limited flight affects everybody. I don't know if all of a sudden it like has something to where, 340 is coming and the golf ball starts to just, or 320, and all of a sudden the golf ball just stops. I don't know. I think it's going to hurt everybody from an entire, really, I think it's going to hurt average golfers, but I think we're all going to get used to it. I think that's the moral of the story. Everybody's going to adjust. And I did see a cool meme, though, on Instagram. Somebody that like had their grandparent in there, and they're like, back in my day, I used to be able to drive the ball 300 yards. And you got like the younger kid kind of looking at him like, no chance. That could be where we're headed. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. But I will say, in regards to Rory McIlroy, and for those of you that are like, we can get the same equipment. I can go out and buy the latest tailor-made stealth driver. Let me tell you, Rory is absolutely correct when he says that we can't go out and get the same equipment they can. Like, they're getting it straight off the tour van. They're getting it tweaked to them. I will tell you, when 20 years ago, I went to the BC Open and I was on the range. I was practicing for the event. I was injured, so I didn't actually play in the BC Open. And this was a tournament that kind of coincided, but it was a PGA Tour event, but it coincided with the, with the Open Championship a lot of years, or the Ryder Cup. So you tended to get smaller fields and everything. But I'm out there warming up on the range and everything, and the Cleveland rep comes up, and I was a young kid. I was 18 years old. So comes up, and he's like, hey, hit this. And it was their hottest, latest 3-wood. Cleveland Launcher 3-wood. It's still in my golf bag today. It is the hottest golf club that I have ever hit. And I will tell you right now that there is not a 3-wood. You could put it up against any 3-wood that is out there today, and that thing will still perform at the highest level. So no, golf gear is always going to be different when it comes to the PGA Tour pros that are getting it off the tour vans versus what you're going to go in mass production versus making something specifically for tour players. It's going to be a lot different. So just be aware of that. And there is certainly something to be said that, actually, that's a good point, Cam. Also held the world record for longest drive. So, I mean, when it comes to non-conforming gear, and that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Start stashing those Titleist golf balls right now. Start getting those Pro V1s. Start stashing them away. Let's see, because I bet you this is going to be the final year that you see the golf ball going as far as it does. So as we move beyond the golf ball rollback, because truth be told, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I do think that now that it's going to affect everybody, it kind of sucks for everybody, but at the end of the day, at least everybody's going to be playing the same type of golf balls, so to speak. Let's get into the big topic out there. And I know this is one, Cam, you were talking about it earlier around the fact that, good old Tony Finau, he is, you mentioned he's going to be gone to LIV in 2024. I don't see that one happening. But I will tell you that LIV Golf is having a great week. LIV Golf is absolutely crushing it right now. And not just Joaquin Niemann, who he got into the winner's circle on the DP World Tour, but also Dean Burmester. He wins in back-to-back weeks. He ends up taking the South African Open. And guess who's currently number one on the DP World Tour? Good old Dean Burmester. And that bodes really, really well for LIV Golf. And I think what you're seeing, and I was talking about it earlier when I was talking about Tiger Woods getting into a pattern and a rhythm of not taking a ton of time off, but kind of getting into a path. And you will see that with the LIV golfers this year, that a lot of them have still been playing a lot. Cam Smith isn't going through the drought that he went through last year, okay? Because most of those guys took off the longest part of their careers, having 4 to 6 months off before they went back and started playing again. And a lot of them just were like, hey, I got paid a shit ton of money. I'm packing up the clubs for right now. I'm not going to sit there and all of a sudden go and work my ass off, digging in the dirt, as Tiger likes to say. But this year is different. There's some pride, and I think a lot of guys last year, when LIV Golf started back up again, that they really saw the damage of taking that much time off. So a lot of guys are playing, especially on the DP World Tour right now, and you're seeing that guys are out there winning. So once again, this bodes well for LIV Golf, having some of the top players in the world out there competing and winning. So not just competing and finishing in the top 10, you're seeing guys out there that are winning week in and week out, which is pretty nice to see, because this is going to be a pretty competitive season as a whole. Now, as we look at the rumored LIV Golf player acquisitions. And I know everybody loves to speculate, but we were pretty spot on going back to when everybody started coming out around LIV Golf. We knew Cam Smith was coming out before anybody else did. We knew that DJ was leaving. We knew all these guys that started going out there because we have some great sources. Now, I will tell you that it does look like Jon Rahm is the $600 million man. Started tapping into some resources, and I will say this. When even Jordan Spieth goes and acknowledges during a media day at the Hero World Challenge, and he sounded kind of depressed. If you go back to that press conference when he's talking about Jon Rahm, he's just kind of like, I hope he doesn't go because he's one of the best players in the world and we want him to compete against us. Now, one of the things about Jon Rahm, great dude, but he was out there here in Arizona at the Arizona Skins game at Mountain Shadows, the par 3 course, okay? And the sources that were out there were telling me that he wasn't taking it serious, that he was kind of just goofing around. I mean, he didn't even place in terms of the individual stroke. Didn't have a skin, which normally you need to make a hole-in-one to make a skin anyways, but every once in a while there's a birdie out there that ends up stealing it. He seemed very relaxed and very happy, just kind of like he's out with the boys having a good time. And that, in addition to the sources that I have, it definitely seems like he is gone. He is the $600 million man. And, I mean, look at the signs as well. There's enough of them to where he drops out of the TGL. But who else is going with him? Okay? Now, in addition to Jon Rahm, because Jon Rahm, he is getting his own team. They don't have a spot for Jon Rahm just to come in and join. So they have to build him a team, which it's great because they have a lot of people in the qualifying going on. But you also know that he wants somebody at a high caliber to come over and be a part of his team. He doesn't want 3 guys that are going to just qualify. And that is one of the things that we're going to see with this acquisition of Jon Rahm going to LIV Golf is there's going to be 3 players that need to fill in. Okay. Maybe one of them is going to come from the qualifying school because you got some great players that are in the qualifying school. I'll go over that in a second. Or the qualifying tournament. I don't know what they're referring to it as, but it's the qualifier for LIV Golf. Adrian Meronk is the one that is rumored that he is going. And this makes a ton of sense because Adrian Meronk is one of the best players on the DP World Tour. He was the one, if you remember, got screwed over because Ludwig Aberg ended up making it into the Ryder Cup along with some other guys like Justin Rose. Adrian Meronk pissed off about that, obviously, and he's probably sitting there going, you know what? Me and Luke Donald aren't getting along, and Luke Donald is going to have a repeat at the Ryder Cup. That's the only thing that I have to look forward to because otherwise I can play in the majors and I can make a shit ton of money by going over to LIV Golf. Adrian Meronk is heading over with Jon Rahm. Okay. Now, in addition to that, I've also heard a lot of people speculating, beyond Tony Finau, talking about, Xander, Patrick Cantlay. I see some of the comments here as well. That's not happening as of yet. We talked about Patrick Cantlay has flirted with this, and he technically has a deal in line that is, once Phil Mickelson is done, he's going to take over his team, okay? This was something that we were told was a done deal, which is why we talked about it 2 years ago or a year ago. I forget exactly when we came out with it. So Patrick Cantlay and Xander, on the other hand, Xander's not as keen on going over. So, you can take that for what you want, but I've also heard Jason Day. And I do think that Jason Day is BS. I don't think Jason Day is happening. Jason Day still wants to redeem himself on the PGA Tour. Think of Ricky Fowler. Everybody thought Ricky Fowler was going. You know, there were reports that he was gone. He already signed. We never ran with that one. It was surprising to see that go back and forth. However, that made sense, right? Ricky was really struggling with his game, but so has Jason Day, and he's resurrected, right? Jason Day wants to get back to the top. He's the type of guy to where he's really competitive, wants to get back to the top. So I don't know if they're going to fill in the other two spots, if that was enough to get Jon Rahm to just go ahead and join and to say, hey, you're going to have Adrian Meronk come with you. There might be one other player that comes along, and then I think they're going to open up an additional qualifier spot or two, depending on obviously what happens with signings. But those qualifiers, it's not like you got guys that are a joke or just brand new guys that are going over and trying to qualify. You've got guys like Jason Duffner, major champion, multiple tour wins, Kevin Chappell, Kyle Stanley, Chris Stroud, Jeff Overton, the Frenchie, Victor Dubuisson. Okay. Victor Dubuisson. He is also in that group. And one of the guys that I'm surprised more people haven't talked about, which is an absolute player, I have picked him for wins last year, is Lucas Bjerregaard. Okay. I can't say his name. Good luck with that one. Hang on. Maybe after a sip. Lucas Bjerregaard. I think I got it that time. That was actually pretty good. Now, that being said, there's other players in there as well. Turk Pettit is in there that played on it or played in LIV Golf last year. So you got some guys that can absolutely play. And I think LIV Golf is going to become more competitive than ever, which is great for golf. It's one of the things that kind of, this past year, I wasn't super high on LIV Golf, and I'm like, I like LIV Golf, but it's really hard for me to sit there and go, this product is so much better than the PGA Tour. It wasn't. It kind of sucked last year. Let's be honest about it. Like, the competitiveness wasn't really there. You got frickin' Brooks Koepka towards the end of the year making an extra couple $1,000,000 and didn't even know that he had done it. Okay, that is bad planning, promotion across the board. But if they get a guy like Jon Rahm to come over and start competing with Dustin Johnson and Cam Smith and some of the, like, Jon Rahm is fiery, okay? You don't really have that fire with the Dustin Johnson. Cam Smith, you can, like, I just think this past year for Cam Smith, he underestimated how important it was to keep his game in shape. He thought, hey, I've gotten to this level. I'm going to take months off. Once I come back, I'm going to be right back at the top. And it just wasn't the case. So now you bring in a guy like Jon Rahm, all of a sudden the competitive level goes up. And I think that is the best thing that can help LIV Golf, is to have that competitiveness. But the question that I've been getting from everybody around me is, Matt, what does this mean for the PGA Tour PIF deal? And I've been talking about it in the past couple weeks. Well, obviously this ain't fucking good. This is not good for the PGA Tour because they had a peace treaty, okay? They had a deal throughout all the negotiations and everything. And by the way, Tiger Woods talked about it at the Hero World Challenge when he was asked. And Tiger said, you know, a lot has changed in the past 48 hours. That was the most telling thing outside of Jordan Spieth acknowledging the rumors about Jon Rahm and just saying, I hope he stays. That is the biggest issue going on. I think the deal between PIF and the PGA Tour, if it goes through, it cannot be a good thing for the PGA Tour. Now, you may sit back and go, well, there's going to be a lot of money involved though, Matt. There's going to be a lot of money. Yeah, but guess what? LIV Golf, or I shouldn't even say LIV Golf, but PIF, the Magic Fund, my best talking point here, which is PIF, the Magic Dragon, the fire-spewing money dragon of all dragons. Oh man. If PIF, the Magic Dragon, has this upper hand, do you not think that they're going to take care of all of LIV Golf and make sure that it survives, that everything, and we always knew in talking about this from day one, if you've been a listener of this podcast and you have debated me as to the fact that, who's in control, it was always PIF. They were always the one with the money. The money always ends up being the one in control. So Jay Monahan could sit there and say, yeah, but I'm going to be the chairman. I'm going to be able to make all the decisions. Absolutely not. You're not going to be able to. It's unbelievable the type of shit that we have been fed as fans. And you're right, Run PMC. There's no rules in war. And you know what? It's just unbelievable to think that we have been fed over and over and over and over and over again as fans of golf. Not just PGA Tour fans, just fans of golf. When you're being fed the fact that we're going to be in control, we're going to be in control, we're going to be in control. That's all that has been fed to us from the PGA Tour. And now we see, no, that's not really going to happen. And I do think by the hand that got played that I look back to now and I'm like, ooh, that might have fucked it up altogether right there, is when the PGA Tour, and I can't say that they were the ones that leaked this, but when all of a sudden they started dabbling into, hey, what other money can we get? What if this falls through? Can we get Endeavor? Can we get the Fenway Group? Can we get this? Can we get that? And all of a sudden, those reports start to leak out. Well, once again, folks, you forget, PIF the Magic Dragon is a dragon. It spews hot fire lava from its mouth. It just happens to include money that comes along with it. And that's where, with PIF, they go smack, smack, smack. Remember this handshake agreement about us not poaching your players? Well, fuck off. We're taking Jon Rahm. And I can't blame him, man. J.J. Watt was right. If you get offered $600 million, do you expect anybody to turn that down? I'm not. Like, shit, I would have taken a couple mil from LIV. But that's me because I haven't made any money from the PGA Tour. But that's where this whole thing gets interesting. I'm really interested to see, once again, how this plays out. There's very little time left to get to the end of the year. I don't think the agreement is there yet, and I think that's one of the reasons why PIF was just like, you know what, screw it. We're going to poach your players, and if it messes up this deal, so be it. We really don't care. And that pretty much wraps it up, folks. That gives you a full analysis of everything going on right now in the game of golf. And you have two big names, okay? So I want you to know. Ooh, here we go. Thomas, let's get in here. I want PGA. I'm going to put this up on the board here. I want PGA versus LIV Ryder Cup style format matches 3 times a year. I mean, how cool would that be? How cool would that be if we start getting PGA Tour versus LIV? I have wanted this from day one. I think it'd be great. I mean, I'm a little bit jealous if Jon Rahm does come over, because then what logo are they going to make for him? Is it going to be better than my range goats? I don't know, man. I just don't know. But it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. And let's see, also from Thomas, also Auberg can and will carry PGA for a while. Why do we act like other players won't play well as Rahm later? No, I mean the PGA Tour, and this is why I don't think for 1 second that the PGA Tour did the right thing in the beginning of all of this by banning everything, drawing a line in the sand. I said it from the beginning. I was absolutely against that. I felt like it showed weakness. and I felt like it really played their hand right up front. And that's where the PGA Tour, look at the UFC. How many guys did the UFC lose to Bellator? Bellator, and I'm sorry if you're not a MMA fan or anything or know anything about it, but look at Bellator. They just went belly up and had to be acquired by the PFL. So this is where you cannot, you're always going to have young talent coming up through. You should have just let LIV Golf be what LIV Golf was going to be and play nice with the Saudis from day one. You played your hand, you got screwed over, you really felt like, oh shit, now we got to do something with them after the hard stance that you took, and then from there, you don't have the upper hand. You tried to create leverage by leaking out about investors that want to spend money with the PGA Tour. Then the and then the PIF, the Magic Fund, was just like, nope, screw you guys. We're going to take your top talent. Here we go. And Jon Rahm, he's not the world number one. Scotty Scheffler is. So we still got the world number one. We still got good old Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth, the bestest of friends. We got Max Homa, who's now best friends with Justin Thomas as well. We've got Joel Damon, who has become a hit from the Netflix success. I mean, but yes, the PGA Tour, and I talk about this all the time, off air especially, is just they're awful to promote. And they're supposed to be there to build up these players. So when you actually look at what the PGA Tour is and their mission statement and everything, they're there to build up everybody. They don't do that at all. They're a horrible promotion. Like, could you imagine them in the fight game? They would be non-existent. They'd be worse than the PFL or Bellator or anybody like that, or One Championship. Like, LIV Golf would be the UFC at that point. It just is really, really too bad that it's all kind of come to this, and we don't have a full resolution as of yet, and we don't really have any knowledge at all when it comes to leaks coming out of where this deal is, other than all of this that we're going over tonight and some inside information along those lines. So it's I would love to see. Okay, let me just go out on one thing since you guys are talking about it right now in the chat. It's definitely, yeah, what they did for Michael Block was insane, but that was more the PGA than the PGA Tour, because it was a PGA professional that played really well in the PGA Championship. So the PGA, of course, is going to do a ton of stuff for Michael Block, because that's one of their guys. But you have to understand, the PGA and the PGA Tour, they don't necessarily really like each other, and that's not really what they're all about. So that's where that whole situation. But I've used Michael Block. I'm like, why didn't they do this for a guy like Wyndham Clark last year before he won? You could see the signs. Bobby and I was talking about it. Bobby and I had a bet between Wyndham Clark and Cam Young. And Bobby had Wyndham Clark winning before Cam Young. And yet you get none of those stories. I would love for there every single week to be promotions about players, not just on their play, but also their backstories. It would be absolutely phenomenal for that. And here's the thing. Yeah, PGA leaves it up for Barstool and other media, so forth, and the Korn Ferry Tour. And I do like that you said that's how crappy they are. I mean, that is very, very true. I mean, it's tough when, and I love Barstool, but Foreplay, I'm sorry, it's just not one of the solid golf podcasts that are out there. I like golf podcasts. That one in particular, like, it's like on a chalkboard for me. And yeah, like, they threw out some one-liners and stuff like that. Like, they got Big Cat involved, some of those other guys, which was good for the broadcast side and everything. But man, we need it to come from the source. We need somebody in the media side with the PGA Tour to start building this all up. We can go on and on and on around that whole thing, but we'll talk about it more in the weeks to come. We're going to see how. Oh, here we go. I can't let that one go, Cam. I'm sick of foreplay. And I don't blame you. I mean, I haven't really been on them from day one, especially because rest in peace, Mikey Perez. But we challenged them, and he knew Riggs. So he's texting Riggs directly, which they had a chat feed and everything going on, and they would not play me and Mikey. We offered for the four of them to take on me and Mikey, and they wouldn't do it. So I might have a little bit of bitterness towards them in regards to that, and he was ghosted by him too, which was absolutely ridiculous. But that's it for tonight's show, everybody. We're going to wrap this up. Thank you for everybody for listening. Thank you for the comments. And we will get back to you next week. We've got Kevin Streelman that's going to be on. And thank you, everybody. Thank you, Millions.co, our streaming service. And thank you to our sponsor, Swannies Golf. Once again, Swannies Golf, go to swannies.co, promo code PullHookGolf25 at checkout for 25%. Your entire order, and make sure to catch the show next week. I can't wait. I will see everybody then. And once again, thanks, everybody. Peace out.